taking advantage of open source for a decade, making money from other people's contributions without giving anything back to them, and transferring open source projects to their own ownership. But enough about Microsoft.NET. Let's talk about WordPress. So this particular career limiting rant was prompted by this tweet from James Newton King, who said .NET content creators watching non-stop banger WordPress drama. Okay, James, I love everything you've ever done. Ever. You're amazing. But we should not be sneering at the drama that is going on in the WordPress world, because .NET is not necessarily any better, and I think it's a really, really crass look to sneer right now. Let me talk to you about a little thing called the .NET Foundation. These guys are independent, innovative, and always open source. Yeah, okay. Well, when we were locked in our homes in 2021, don't suppose you remember that, a Microsoft member of staff on the Microsoft payroll that is part of this supposedly independent .NET Foundation decided to take over people's projects and transfer them from their own GitHub organizations to the .NET Foundation org. People started leaving. It was an absolute disaster. It violated the trust of project maintainers. The beleaguered .NET Foundation has apologized again and reversed one of the policies. Yeah, they make unauthorized changes to projects, merging their own pull requests into other people's projects. This was a disaster. Yeah, absolute disaster. Okay. The person responsible for all this apologized. Yeah, obviously. They apologized. Merge it into a project without discussion. Yeah, I mean, this is blah, 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 blah. The first comments are, this is a total non-apology. Yeah, correct. Okay. Yeah. Total non-apology. So you know how we are demanding that this Matt gentleman in WordPress land quits or is fired or resigns or takes himself out of the whole WordPress ecosystem? Yeah, probably he should at this point. But despite the damage that this activity to the .NET Foundation, the open source thing for .NET, despite the damage that it caused, lasting damage for multiple years, people still don't trust it, by the way, .NET Foundation. People avoid it and pull their projects out. This person is still employed by Microsoft. So how much does Microsoft actually care about open source? This person, for the damage they did to the .NET open source community, is still gainfully employed by Microsoft. I think that just says it all, really. So, okay, that was a long time ago, yeah, but have Microsoft changed? Has the .NET Foundation changed? And bear in mind, the .NET Foundation supposedly runs the .NET project, okay? They own it, even. So historically, in the Visual Studio projects, they've all by default relied on open source projects from the community, yeah? You may remember Identity Server just being pulled out of that when they go commercial. JSON.NET, of course, and more recently, the Open API stuff powered by Swashbuckle and Swagger, yeah? So they're removing this, okay? And the reason is it's a great project. We appreciate the time and effort its owner and community contributors have put into it. But the project is no longer actively maintained by its community owner. Oh well, okay? So it's no longer actively maintained. Fine. But instead of contributing back using their basically infinite resources of Microsoft or funding the project, they just decide to drop it like a hot potato and fire it into the sun. Who cares? When the open source developer is no longer working for free, they're basically dead to them, is the way that I see this. This is the most valuable company in the world, and instead of finding a way for these contributions to this very valuable project to continue, they'll just force all of their users to learn to use something else. Yeah, this sucks. This is a pattern of behavior, though, and back in 2020, Microsoft announced WinGet. Yeah, WinGet sounds pretty cool. Package manager. The problem is this already existed. Basically, it was called AppGet. And what did they do? AppGet was an open source project. What did they do? They did not give the developer loads of money or bring him on board or contribute or whatever, make it part of Windows. No. I mean, according to the reports, they basically interviewed him and decided to get everything out of his brain and then didn't even give him the job. This is just shocking stuff, really. He was approached in July 2019 by a high-level manager at Microsoft for Windows app deployment team. So instead of taking this guy's open source package manager forward, they decided to fund an entire team internally to build an internal replacement. Microsoft loves open source, guys. Absolutely loves it. Let me talk about another thing that really grinds my gears. Yeah, this is the ImageSharp library. Okay, fantastic library. 120 million downloads on NuGet. This thing is used by Microsoft themselves and thousands of their customers. Okay, so the guy that builds this is a lovely gentleman called Jim Bob Squarepants, or James for short, and this poor guy had to start a company to try and get his work funded. He called it SixLabors because he does the work of 6 people. That's why I called it SixLabors, obviously. So, as part of the SixLabors stuff, he decided to dual license his open source work so that he could potentially get a bit of payment for it. As soon as this was announced, he was again dropped like a hot potato by the .NET Foundation, who no longer got his stuff for free. This is just damning, really. He's announced an intent to change the license of the project. It's like, oh, we can only use OSI approved licenses, so that he has to leave the foundation basically, or he can't change his license. Waffle, blah blah. I mean, this is just shocking stuff. It is likely that ImageSharp users have a variety of viewpoints on the new approach being taken by the project. Yeah? Do you think? Anyway, so, I mean, this is just a really sad story, yeah? If you look at this guy's tweets, let's read some of them, okay? Representatives of a company that made $3.25 billion USD in net revenue last year are attempting to coerce me to allowing them to use a boutique agency license. Meanwhile, I lie sleepless at night stressing over potentially missing mortgage payments, as companies are not buying licenses. What? As ImageSharp approaches 18 million NuGet downloads, it disappoints me greatly that the license purchases have flatlined. Yeah, the community will eventually lose major contributors. Everyone buy an ImageSharp license, please, so I can stop working at it at midnight and start working on it during the day. I mean, why does Microsoft, okay, allow the people that supply these licenses to make their platform viable starve, essentially, or not pay their mortgage? I think it's mad, and I'm not the only one. Okay, one of the top guys in the .NET community is a chap called David Whitney, and he says, if you think authors of open source software are somehow betraying open source when they try to find sustainability, you're on the wrong side. Yeah, I agree. And he did a great talk at NDC London, and I'm just going to play 10 seconds in the interest of fair use.
It's free software. What year is it? 2024. If it's free, why wouldn't it be free for everybody? That includes organizations. I'm honestly not clear what you're suggesting specifically and logistically. Well, don't let organizations have it for free.
Correct, David.
Obviously.
Correct, David. Don't let organizations have it for free is, yeah, basically the point. So what am I getting at here? Well, I think Microsoft benefits massively from these open source projects just existing at all, okay? The fact that they exist means that their customers choose to use the Microsoft stack and .NET. And I think Microsoft has far more of a responsibility to make sure that the people doing this work can actually survive, all right? And actually, to be fair, recently, Microsoft have paid attention. They've got a thing called the FOSS Fund, Free and Open Source Software Fund. And if you scroll down, you can see that they've actually contributed up to 12,500 USD in June 2024 to some .NET projects that you will know and love. Benchmark.net, Fluent Validation. Yeah, good choice. CSV Helper, everybody's used that. What else? REST-Sharp, NSWAG, yeah. Thank you, okay? Well done, Microsoft. We appreciate it. I appreciate it. But Why is this a one-off? Why can't you do this every month? Why are these people doing this important work on the side for fun while it powers the software of your customers? Yeah? The following session, you decided to donate to far fewer projects, and none of them are .NET related. So yeah, so who cares about your own programming ecosystem? Me, you. Who cares? Back to WordPress though, and to be fair, WordPress is open source, and you can contribute to it and retain the copyright to your contributions if your pull request gets accepted. With .NET, however, you have to sign this thing, a contribution license agreement. Let's go through this, shall we? This is mad. You actually have to license your work to the .NET Foundation, or they will not merge your pull request. You don't maintain the copyright yourself. So to sneer at WordPress, which could be more open because they don't have one of these, we should not be sneering, is basically my point. So what did happen to the author of the most popular .NET open source package ever made, namely Newtonsoft.json, with 5 billion downloads? This thing actually broke NuGet once it hit 2.4 billion. Yeah, well, this loops me back right to the beginning of this rant. He got a job at Microsoft, and this was James Newton King. I'm excited to announce I'm joining Microsoft. So this is possibly the happiest ending to anybody doing .NET open source at all in the entire world ever, and possibly might ever be. You either get ignored, your stuff dropped from official templates, or you starve and can't pay your mortgage. I mean, this is the best case scenario. So how do you avoid getting burnt by this open source stuff? Well, let's talk about it. Yeah, some actual advice instead of some ranting. How do you avoid burnout, disappointment, and multi-billion-dollar corporations using your work for free while you struggle to pay the mortgage? Because this is time you should be working, not doing stuff for ungrateful corporations for free. What you want to do is stick to these rules, okay? Just do open source or portfolio work, like your job hunting, trying to show how good you are. That's it. Don't do it full time unless you're actually getting paid, please. 99% of people that try to do open source full time for a living without getting paid first will just starve. All right, that's it. And if there is any commercial value in what you're doing up front, you need to be smart enough to notice. So dual license it from day one, have a core, open core plus commercial, license it around it, or choose a license to start that will prevent multi-billion-dollar companies with compliance and legal departments from wanting to touch your stuff. Keep it as a hobby project. For example, I was looking at Reddit for some low-effort .NET content, and I found a post about my own stuff. Yeah, this guy is wondering why doesn't anybody use my library? That's fine. And this person correctly pointed out it is licensed under LGPL. This is a red flag for me and many other developers. Correct. It's a red flag, and I don't want people to use my stuff in their big corporate enterprisey projects because I'm not getting anything for it, and I'm not a bad person for thinking that. I never was going to get anything from using it. So anyway, this guy comes into the issues and asks, "Yeah, I mean, but I'll sell you a commercial license if you'd like, but yeah, okay." But this hasn't stopped the project really. I mean, it's still got almost 600 stars now. So yeah, doing well. But for my final piece of advice, we're going to go back to WordPress because we love WordPress, yeah? And let's look at their website. The philosophy. This is a blogging app, yeah, that gets people to work on the code base for free, yeah? It's a blogging app with a philosophy, okay? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, a Bill of Rights. This is manipulation of the highest order. If you believe this stuff, I have a bridge to sell you, okay? Please don't fall for this and fail to pay your mortgage. That's all I'm asking. The freedom to redistribute, the freedom to run the program for any purpose. this is, please, I'm begging you, just look at the bigger picture of dedicating thousands of hours of your life to open source. Seriously, just consider it carefully. Okay, thank you for watching. If you're still here, I appreciate a like and or a subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, stick them in the comments and I reply and read every single comment you write. Thanks for watching.